Welcome to Best Wellness Interview. I'm Kristine Best. I'm your host, and I interview successful people, and they share their strategies and experiences around wellness. Now, today I have a guest. He's from the US. He's in Texas, and his name is Victor Breton. And his concept for his business is really quite interesting. I'm going to get him to briefly introduce himself to you. Welcome to my show, Victor.
Thank you. Really appreciate being on here.
So tell us a little about you so that the viewers know, who you are, what you do.
Thank you. So I'm a eighth generation Texan. So been here all of our life and eight more generations before it. We're a ranch owner. We have a couple of ranches that we own. A 50-year construction person, started out kind of as a water boy, worked himself up through the executive and owning our own company at one point in time. We're author of a book, the Man That I Would Become. And then we've been on some TV shows on the Sportsman Channel and on the Pursuit Channel about the ranch.
Right. That's awesome. And tell us what the ranch does.
So the ranch originally was going to be retirement for my wife and I, and we met a couple of organizations that kind of changed our mission. And right now it's about giving. We've donated 64 hunts in the past 3 years to combat veterans, faith organizations, terminally ill kids, Purple Heart veterans. So the ranch has become more about giving than anything else.
That's a very honourable cause that you set up. But how did that happen? Tell us about these organisations, these people that you met through them that changed your
Thank you.
mission, you
Yeah,
know?
appreciate that. So, Hunting with Soldiers, a man named Gordon Melton, 20 years as the founder. He tries to work with combat veterans and PTSD, working through the outdoors. Then it's Casey Allen, State Director of Cross Trail Outfitters, or CTO. They're a faith based outdoor organization. And in fact, today, actually, since Wednesday, we've had 10 of the young men out here at their Ram camp. And then last week, we had 6 of the young ladies for the inaugural girls Ram camp with Cross Trail Outfitters.
Right. Um, I'd like to actually uh, find out what changed your mind. What was said, or what did you feel in yourself when you spoke to these people? What was it that changed your mind to retirement and then to be busy running a ranch?
It was kind of my mom based my foundations, when I was young, at faith, being raised in a Christian school, till I was sixth grade. So of course you flounder, you go back and forth, and you come back. And to me, this was a better way for me to be able to give back in my family, other than going to church and tithe and missionaries and that type of stuff. It just hit my heart, and one day you kind of wake up after you start this journey and you realize that it really wasn't me. God was putting me on the path. I just didn't realize it. So now it's my responsibility, since he put me on this path, to continue forward. So that's what we're doing.
Okay, so it's a greater than you mission.
Oh, absolutely. I totally believe you weren't put on this earth to take, you're put on this earth to give. Yes, ma'am.
Do you think that makes you feel like, what does it do to you inside when you help people like these veterans and children?
It's a better feeling than winning the lottery, as far as I'm concerned. The satisfaction that you get, knowing that you're there really trying to help. And there's nothing better than watching a 10-year-old young man give his life to Christ right in front of you. I mean, you can't just even talk about the joy I get in my heart from seeing that happen.
Yeah, that's right. And it gives them an anchor basically for their soul and a direction in their life.
Absolutely. The outdoors does a lot of great things to us, or for us, right? Whether you're watching the stars, sitting by a campfire, watching the animals, it's a healing process. So being able to do that within the environment that we have to the ranch is kind of special.
That is awesome because people today are so caught up with the digital world and technology that they're missing out on the natural outdoors. Now, the put it this way, the digital and technical world is all about artificial light, right? And
Oh yeah.
also, you're sitting on your butt, not doing anything. You're sedentary. Whereas when you're in the outdoors, you have a natural light during the day and a bit of natural light at night. But there's this wonder and imagination and this grounding that happens, don't you? Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. It's like you said, there's just something to get out in the sunlight, number one, but then just getting out there like the boys, they're out there in, 95, 96 degree heat right now, pushing and walking and all that. And, it's great exercise for them. It teaches them about nature and conservation. I couldn't agree with you anymore.
Okay, so when these people come, like they're obviously suffering from some mental issues and struggling in their life. And when they arrive at your ranch, I imagine their energy is a bit low and they're quiet and they're not really interactive, talking very much. What is it like throughout your the stay at your ranch? What happens to these people? Have you noticed
Well,
what happens to them?
oh, absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Well, the combat veterans, I'll give you for example, right? They're not ever used to being alone, right? If you're in the military, it's two or more. So the first thing you notice is, you kind of sit around the table and you give them a safety orientation, talk about, what the plan is, right? It's within 5 minutes, they're brothers again, right? They're brothers in arms. They're laughing, they're joking, they're poking each other, they're talking about their history. Oh, well, you were there when I was. Oh, I didn't know you were there. You start to see the smiles come on their face, the outside pressures, that they maybe have carried inside all of a sudden start disappearing.
So usually when people are mentally challenged in some way, they are internalized. So what you're describing there is they're starting to externalize and be curious about other people and ask questions and listen and engage. That's really important.
Oh, well, it is because, whether it's and I don't know if it's a 10-step or 12-step program, whatever it is nowadays, right, for alcohol and drugs, the first thing you have to do is you have to admit it. Well, you have to speak to admit it. So I think part of the communication thing, and like men's health, right? I've learned to be a big advocate now on men's health because you always hear about the 22 combat veterans that die of suicide, right, every day. Well, there's 50 construction people that die of suicide every day. There's more in construction than there is in the military. So the men's
That
health, the talking, go ahead.
that's an interesting statistic. I didn't.
And
Most people wouldn't know that.
I didn't know it until a couple of years ago when our company basically was talking about intervention and men's suicide and men's health. And then you start sitting there and thinking about it. Well, it is. We're taught, okay, hush up. Well, you're a kid, right? Okay, dust it off. It's okay. Hush and stop crying. Keep going. So we've learned from an early age that we're supposed to keep it in, not say anything. And you can't heal if you keep it inside. You got to be able to talk. So what you said about your communication, I think, is critical.
Absolutely, because it becomes a pressure cooker if you keep it inside. Also, because you tend to focus on it more when you keep it inside. And it's like my description of it is a possum in the attic. So they make a lot of noise and run around, make a lot of carry on in the attic, right? And that's what happens to people's thoughts when they're just focused on the problem. And that's what overtakes them and it becomes unbearable. So you have to let the pressure out. And I love this concept you've got because it allows people to speak um, to an audience. Basically, they're talking to people who understand them because they're all military. And if you've got a group of kids, they're all kids and they're all around the same age. So they have some common things, to talk about,
Great.
to
Agree.
ground and to open up that conversation, get them engaged. So I love your concept. Tell us what the activities are on your grant. What do they do?
So the main thing, right? The attraction to come is them to harvest an animal on the property. That's one of the first things. During the day's events, like with the kids, we'll go shoot watermelons or water balloons. We'll go to the rifle range. Show them, make sure they're understanding, their firearm safety. Then we'll have competitions with them, right? Who can do this, who can do that, and they get rewards or something for it. And then like on the kids, then they have devotionals basically by the campfire. They sing songs over by the campfire. So there's a routine with them. We change it up a little bit every day so they're not bored. They go jump in the cowboy pool or something during the middle of the day, take a nap. So we try to keep them busy the whole entire time. But I would say that the surrounding event is the ability for them to be able to harvest their animal, to butcher it, to skin it, to process it, and bring some meat home to their family.
And during that process, because you don't call it shooting the animal, killing the animal, you talk about harvesting the animal. So there's something different about your ranch compared to people going out and just slaughtering an animal, right? It's not about that. It's about the respect of the animal. It's about the understanding of the process, and then you're harvesting it to get meat to eat, right? So
Absolutely.
you've got. Can you explain that a little more?
Yeah, and I'd like to get a little more in depth about kind of what you just said. So, hunters are the best conservationists in the world. We spend money to protect animals, right? That's what we do. On our ranch right now, there are two different types of animals that are extinct in their native land. If it wasn't for us taking care of them and the hunters coming to harvest something like that, then they wouldn't be here. So, take Africa, right? We had a conversation before, that I'm fixing to go to Africa. The government does not fund anti-poaching. It is funded by the outfitter. So we go, we pay to harvest an animal. The outfitter takes part of that money, does an anti-poaching program basically to make sure the animals don't all die. Because the biggest problem you got in Africa is protein, right? It's a lack of protein.
Mm.
So the tribes or whatever they are, they're all after that. So when we go harvest our animal, it goes to the village. So we help try to supply the village with that protein that they need.
Okay. Oh, that's an interesting concept as well. I didn't know these kind of programs existed, and that you guys are hunters, but you're not hunting to kill. You're actually hunting and helping someone through that.
Absolutely, and when I shot my hippo, there was 55 villagers there, all harvesting basically the meat, off of that hippo, and that's going to probably feed that village for 2 to 2.5 weeks.
Wow. Yeah, that's an amazing concept. So, how many people would you say are involved in that kind of thing?
As far as like what the how many people?
People like you. How many people like you would be doing that kind of
Almost every hunter that goes to Africa is two things. One, there's called the blue bag program that SCI has, and what that means is you fill up that blue bag with things for the school or for clothes or whatever. You fill that bag up when you go to donate basically to the village. Like the last time my brother and I went to Mozambique, my mom passed like about 3 months before then. And my mom was always making diapers for Africa, or she was making dolls for Mexico. So we went and bought 100 coloring books and colors and soccer balls and all that. And that's what we did. We went and saw the school, and the school was a thatched hut with a 2x4. It really was a board that they sat on. And that's where it was, and we donated to the school. So to me, 90% of the hunters that go there, that's what they're doing. They're bringing something, and then they're harvesting that meat and leaving it there for the village.
thing? Okay, that's very honourable. I like that. So, tell me about what your wife does on the farm and how she helps you.
Other than tell me I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do and get in trouble. Hey, she's got a sign that as soon as you walk in, you turn around, it basically says, he might think he's in charge, but if you want to know the real truth, ask me. So there you go. My wife's a 35-year educator. She's been a teacher all of her life. She retired, came here to Olney, a little old town we're in right now, and went back to teaching, and just absolutely loves it. The kids love her, and she feels she's just a teacher. She wants to train, teach, and try to help. She's in charge, so she's also a culinary teacher. So my wife is basically the cook that does most of the meals and all that. She helps make sure that the arrangements are where everybody sleeps. So she takes care of the inside, let's just say, and between myself and Jake, our ranch manager, we take care of the outside.
Okay. Do you have horses there? I like horses.
She's got a Palomino. So she was a National Western Pleasure rider when she was a kid. Kind of went away from it once we got back, away from the city out here. We got her horse. So yeah, I just was taking the grandkids for a ride yesterday. So
Yeah, nice. I can't imagine a ranch without a horse.
it doesn't sound right, does it?
Do you have a wagon? And do you have hay bales and stuff like that to sit on?
Well, we do, but our hail bays ain't the typical. They're 1,600 pound round bales, so they're a little
Oh,
bigger. Don't
the wagon.
have don't We don't have the wagon. We have Can-Ams and Polarises, so that kind of takes the place of the wagon. We're a little modern now. I do still have my cowboy hat I wear all the time, so that's still part of it. My boots. So
It's a bit like when people come to Australia, they think there's kangaroos hopping in the streets and spiders and snakes that are going to bite them, but it's not as bad as that, right?
no,
It's
it's not.
it's not what people think. So I had this vision of a farm and or a ranch and yeah, the old westerns I used to watch. I was thinking of that. So you're
We're
more
close. It's still the same thing. You still got to work. You still got to mend fences, right? You still got to take care of roads. You still got to feed your animals and what. I mean, it's the principle is the same. We're just a little more modern, right? Instead of a horse and a plow, I got a tractor. Okay.
yeah, right. Oh yeah, I didn't expect you to have a horse and plough, but I still gotta have a horse to ride around on. Yeah, so I'd imagine there's a lot of activities to do on a ranch, and that would keep you pretty physically busy, physically fit.
Yeah, I got to have something to do. Being in construction all my life, kind of example here. Whenever we bought this place, it was a high fence and 12 animals. So we built the lodge, we built all the quarters, everything. So my sons and I built it. So I like staying busy. I like working. I like keeping that way. So the ranch really was kind of part of us going forward and hopefully trying to keep me alive because my wife got tired of me building in our backyard and she said, I don't have any grass left, stop building. So we had to come to the ranch. So here we are.
Well, that's good. Then she's doing things that she likes with the culinary stuff and organising you, and you're busy building things out the back and fixing things.
That's it. That and doing a little setup on, trying to get our schedule, situated for, our hunts and for our donations and all that. So that's kind of me. I've got the calendar, to try to make sure we just keep everything organized.
So tell me what was it like building this brand? It didn't just happen overnight. How long did it take you to get the concept up and running?
So we bought the ranch the day before Thanksgiving. We had purchased a travel trailer, and that was our Thanksgiving. Was out here, on the ranch. So it took us about a year and a half to put up the lodge. It started out as the house, but once we met Gordon and Casey, it became a lodge so that we could house people. Then my father-in-law passed, and I made a commitment to him that I would take care of my mother-in-law. So our 91-year-old mother-in-law, she's out and back. So then it became getting her ready and getting her house ready. So that was that. And then my wife said, okay, I can't live in two different places. So she retired. Well, she retired. That made me start building our house to live in. So,
Oh wow.
so I think I'm really close to being done. And then we bought this other ranch and I'm starting all over again. So there we go.
Oh, go figure. You must like what you're doing.
I do. I love the outdoors. I love seeing people smile. I love being able to give back. So this new ranch is just a continuation here to help us with our growth.
Okay. So how many people would you say have been through uh, your rent in the pro?
Uh, 450, 460, probably different folks.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So it's still fairly early stages. How many years you been running?
We've been actually hunting it as a ranch for 3 years. So it's only 3 years that we've run those through. And our if you look at kind of our seasons, right, you can hunt a lot of animals year round, but nobody's going to come in 100-degree heat and say, let's go hunt.
No.
So our really seasons, right, are October through March. Like we're
Okay.
hot now, so we do our camps, right? A lot of the camps for the boys and the girls are happening, and then there's going to be a lull, and then you'll start seeing it again, start picking up in October. Then we're crammed all the way through March, and we start dying back down again.
Okay. We get that. Do you get to know where you are,
A
or have you?
little. We
Oh,
actually got 6 inches last year, which is a little rare, and it actually stuck for about 3 or 4 days. But it's rare, but we do.
okay. So it gets pretty cold as well. You talk about the heat, but you've also got cold.
We've got the cold. I'd say 20s to 100s is kind of what we would range. Most things going to fall really not at freezing, kind of in that 40, but we'll get some cold spells.
Okay. So have you had the organisations that inspired this brand uh, out to visit and see what it is doing?
They're out now. That's where the 10 boys are at with CTO. They're here now.
Oh, okay.
They've hired.
They they bring them.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yeah, I
Oh,
work everything through them. Like if somebody came to me and said, I'm a veteran, I want to hunt, I funnel them through Gordon, right?
okay. Yep. Got it.
I'm kind of the landowner, and that's kind of how they look at me. I'm the landowner. They're the ones that bring everybody together. So that's
Right.
kind of how we partner up. I supply the food and the animals and everything they need. They just coordinate it, make sure they've vetted people out, right? To so that we're all good. And then they bring them in and then we host them.
All right. Yeah, that's a good partnership. Um, there's a lot of mental health problems out there. Have you thought of partnering with a different kind of mental health organisation?
Well, we talked a little bit about, the men's health. Whenever I wrote the book, it really was for my grandkids and their kids, just so that heredity could be passed and somebody could understand what I went through and perseverance and here's what it takes to succeed in your life, right? Well, I've had a bunch of authors actually kind of send me messages and all that and said, "Hey, your book's about this, this, and this," and I didn't look at it that way. So it is about a transition. It is about perseverance. It's about faith, right? So that kind of started me cluing in again on the mental health side of thing because you know, my mom. So I was raised by a single mom. Okay, my brother and sister were 8 and 10 years younger than me, so I was the dad. So when you take all that weight when you're young, you get pretty cold, right? Because there's no time to cry. There's no time to anything. I got to help my mom. My mom's working 70 hours a week. That's my job, right? So you get a little cold. So as you grow through, and thank you to my wife, she starts making you realize you can be masculine and you can still have empathy and you can still cry and you can still be vulnerable all at the same time. So I started understanding this mental health crisis about a man thinks he's got to keep it in and he can't do anything. And then there's nobody to talk to because men, we don't talk. What do? We go out and go, what'd y'all talk about today? Oh, nothing. I mean, that's just kind of what we do, right? So it's clued me in a little bit on maybe there's some things I can help to let men understand that I still feel like I'm masculine. I'm still going to walk in the room as far as I'm concerned and command that room. But you know what? I see a movie now and it makes me cry like a baby. So it's okay. It's all right.
Yeah, I think that that's a very healthy outlook on life, and I agree with you that men have been raised to just soldier on. You know, you're the provider. You're going to do this, and you're not like men have like it's been you're a baby if you cry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Oh
uh,
yeah.
so there's all those concepts that men have been brought up with that they feel like, I guess it's other people's expectations of who they should be, but it really comes down to who you are and your expectations and what you want for your life. Um, because we're all different. so we've all got to have something different in expressing ourselves. And, you know,
Absolutely.
yeah, and letting ourselves shine rather than what other people think we should shine like.
Well, you know, and that's a good point because I stopped worrying about what somebody else thought a long time ago because you're never going to please everybody anyway. And you know, I was taught at an early age too, look yourself in the mirror, and if you like what you see and you're okay with it, then it's probably going to be okay. If you don't like it, then you have to change it.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of people struggle. They don't look in the mirror, they can't mirror.
They can't. They don't want to. And you know, you have to admit it's hard. You know, as a man, it's hard to admit you're wrong. And I'm the first one to admit that because I try to be prepared for meetings. I try not to be wrong. I'm looking for everything's perfect. Z, everything's going to you know what. So so you're sitting there, and I hate to be wrong. But you know what? At the end of the day, I'm never always going to be right. So you have to learn to start accepting that it's okay. I just don't want to look stupid. How's that?
Well, nobody wants the mistake, and I
uh,
I was one of the worst people in that regard, and I started co-hosting um, for a business networking group, and my captain said to me, "You got to lighten up. You're allowed to make a mistake." And I'm going, "But I don't want to make a mistake." And he's going, "But that's the problem, right?" And it's
I
like,
know.
"Yeah, you make a mistake. Oh, I'm human," and then you laugh at yourself, and oh, what? We all make mistakes, like, eh. And I've gotten on stage as um, a singer and playing my guitar and so on, and making a fool of myself on stage in front of a whole audience. And so I've gotten used to that. It's uh, it's an interesting thing. Most people don't want to make a fool of themselves, and that can be something that is going to hold them back in their life. And so it's really good if you could sit around and like in a group of males, or if there were just females, then you can have a heart to heart with them and talk about these things that are on your mind and that bother you, and how do you deal with that? And somebody else can, share what they do. And I think that's a really good environment. Campfires, with the flames and so on,
Mhm.
and singing songs. There's something about that opens up part of you. Would you say?
Oh, absolutely. You listen to, you listen to a song, and and I played the piano from when I was like 4 till I think I was 16 or 17 until the choir teacher told me I had a choice: go to choir, an ensemble, or football. Well, I kind of said I got to football. So I understand what a song can do for you and what it does to you. Songs will get to me faster than anything else. Whether it's a melody, whether it's a lyric. So I think songs are extremely healing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, I'd like to know a little more about your book. I know you've brushed
Okay.
on it, but I did want to ask you specifically. Tell me a little more about the book. Tell our viewers, you know,
Okay.
what you on
Well,
your book.
thank you. So the man that I would become, it's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and all the major publishing houses that you can get it from. And like we talked about, it's really started out as kind of a memoir to my grandkids and their kids, and it's really about my journey. And it starts out with not having a father. The only memory, honestly, I remember of my father was sitting in a recliner with a Falstaff or a Schlitz beer and an unfiltered Camel cigarettes, whether it's in his mouth or in the ashtray. My mom was my rock. My mom went to all my sporting events. She kept me occupied. She got me in sports, which was a good thing because I needed direction. Right, sports teach you don't let your team down, do your role. Right, that taught me a lot. So that kind of carried me through life. Quick, a little excerpt from the book. So, hurt my neck, lost my scholarship, came back and sat on my mom's couch for about 2 weeks. That school didn't want me anymore because I ended up like a 1.6, didn't really care. So they didn't want me anymore. So you're sitting there going, what am I going to do? Well, mom wheels my suitcase back behind me. I'm going, what's she doing? Then she asked me for my keys. Okay, well, maybe mom needs gas or something. She needs to, go do something. She calls me outside. She hands me my keys, gives me $20 and said, tell me where you land. I said, what are you talking about? She goes, you got a little brother and little sister that I'm raising. You're not going to sit on my couch. So I go to a nuclear power plant at that time where I knew hopefully they were hiring. And I remember the hiring manager came out after about 6 days and said, son, you can't stay here. And I said, sir, I'm down to bread, water, and cheese. And I said, I don't have any gas. I said, I'm sorry, sir. I can't go. You're going to have to hire me. Monday, he hired me. So that started 50 years of construction. So it's about that journey, right? Things I did right, things I did wrong, how faith pulled me back in at the end as I swayed left and swayed right. So it's really about my journey, how I got from point A to point B, and then where we're ending up now with hopefully being able to my legacy to my kids. And that's what I tell them. Your legacy is not anything you inherit. The legacy that you're getting is the giving back that we're doing, and that I expect to be carried through the legacy of your life.
So you mentioned you've got sons. Do they work on the ranch, or have they got their own life?
So one of them's kind of older. He's of course he's off on his own, family and all that. I've got two twins. One of them's in the Air Force. He's close, so he helps a lot. The other twin is in med school right now. He just finished his first year of med school, so he's pretty busy. Can't really help. Then my daughter has my two grandbabies, so she's pretty well busy with them. So the kids help when they can. I mean, they helped me build all this, right? When they had time, and then their careers start. They're kind of going off, but everybody comes in and helps every chance they can. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law moved down here. They help us all the time. My nephew's here. So it is a big family thing. Everybody does pitch in.
Right. So you don't have a hardcore rule that my kids have got to be in my business. It's like really up to them.
Pretty much, I'll give you the hard rule I gave them. The hard rule I gave them is when we bought the property, I told them, I said, I'm not going to put part of my retirement into this property if you're not going to participate. So that's the only hard rule I gave them.
Oh, okay.
Past that point in time, right, I understand they've got families and work and other things, but I do expect a little participation, and they do.
Yeah, right. So they came in as partners in a way.
They will, because at the end of the day, this is their inheritance. This is what they're going to do. They're going to have to run the ranch. So, I'm training them as we go on what I do, why I do it, how we do it. So if something happens, they can continue on.
But you've got a manager there now, or a guy you said helps you on the.
I do. He's this is his first year being here, but it got to where I couldn't control it myself. Everything is going on, still having a real job because after I retired, I went back to work, so I couldn't do it. And he's exceptional. He's probably the best wildlife manager I've ever seen. He really understands the wildlife, how to take care of, make sure they're good. He's very good.
Right. So, what happens if your kids don't want to come and, you know, contribute too much to the rank, but would help to keep the concept running? You could get a manager and then train them up to run it.
It's a good question, and I probably don't have an answer, for that. For me, I would do everything I could to a point in time that I physically could not. And at that point in time, you're just going to have to make a decision in your life which way you're going to go. Whether honestly you're going to sell to somebody else that will hopefully continue what you do, whether I make a deal with Jake, my ranch manager. You have to look at that situation when that situation arises.
Right. So the thought has probably crossed your mind a few times.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm hoping then, and I still see it. I see the interest, right?
Yeah.
Hunter getting out of med school, he's going to be a doctor. I understand he's not going to have a lot of time, but Taylor, the other twin, he's extremely interested in what we do. And I think he will continue the legacy.
Okay. Yeah, because it's a very good concept, and the world needs places like, you know, where people can just come and be themselves, relax, and be with like-minded, their kind of folk.
I look forward to
Yeah.
it. Even myself sitting out the stars, just closing your eyes, going, okay, I don't have to do anything.
Well, chill out time.
Yes, ma'am.
So, is there anything that you would like to leave with our listeners and viewers? A, you know, some gem that you'd like them to know?
Well, the probably the gym, the way I look at things is the ranch is kind of my hub to the wheel. The spokes are the book. The spokes are the outdoor channels that we've been on because I want to drive everybody to the ranch because that's where the giving is, right? So if everybody kind of would understand that, our website is breadingtexanranch.com. If you just Google Victor Breading, you'll find that. You'll find the book. So it's really them just to understand the book is really not about me. The book is about a journey that I want them to lead to the ranch. That's really what I'd like to leave, because that's the legacy I want to leave behind, is what we try to do and how we try to help.
Sure. And so, what's your website? Would you like to tell the viewers that?
Yes, ma'am. So it's breading, like my last name, texanranch.com. And if you, we have a DBA, and it's B dash Tex, B Tex Ranch, the easiest way to kind of get to it. But if you Google either one of those, it'll lead us straight to it.
Okay, perfect. And your book is available on Amazon. What's the name of that book again?
The Man That I Would Become.
Cool. And it's by you, Victor Breathing, I presume.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Victor. That's uh, a very commendable, project that you're working on, because I can see it building. You might build several ranches. You might expand this across the US.
Well, we're
Just
looking forward to do it. It was nice to be able to see that we needed to expand. So yes, ma'am. Hopefully the people will help us do that.
awesome.